One of the main goals I have during this presentation on the MACD is to provide quite a bit of variety so you can see how this chart looks in many different situations, some upwards, some downwards, some sideways. That way, the more you become familiar with it, the more of the ebb and flow that you're used to, it becomes easier to read this stock instead of looking at it in a very stressful manner, such as looking at the histogram and the line and oh my god, what's going on, and so on and so forth. So we move on to our tried and tested stock that we've used in many videos before, Ford Motor Company. This stock experienced a huge uprise from September of 2010, let's call it till January of 2011, right there in that orange dotted circle or oval on the price chart. Looking below on the MACD, in between that entire orange dotted circle, we see that the MACD is crosses over the red signal line, and that corresponds to the strength in the price. What I'd like to bring your attention to in this chart, and remember as one of the things mentioned, is the zero line. So if we look over to the right where you see all the lines of the price and the volume, and we look down to the MACD, we see that there is a straight line that kind of flips the chart in half, and that's zero, and it's labeled as such. Typically, as long as the MACD is above that line, it's a very bullish signal, and there's usually lots of upward price pressure. So we can see that clearly in the Ford stock. The MACD crosses the red signal line in about September, and then it stays above and has this nice rise all the way until the MACD crosses below the red signal line, which is in about January of 2011. So again, above the zero line, very bullish. Below the zero line is very bearish. And again, after that price rise, we see a steep decline in Ford, and that corresponds to the decline in the MACD chart. Any chart can be useful, but one of the main precursors to that is that you have to understand at least the very basics of what the chart's about and what it could look like and all what it means. So we're moving on to our third company, our third MACD, and this is of the Pizza Royalty Income Fund. Again, if you're not Canadian, maybe not familiar with income funds, but you can purchase them on any exchange, typically stable in price, as you can see with this particular stock. But the reason I have these orange circles on this chart is to show you how closely the MACD lines move with each other. And basically what that means is the market is not sure kind of what's happening. They might be waiting for an earnings announcement, or maybe there's a lot of people who buy the stock a little every day and they hang on to it, and that's a kind of reasonable assumption we can draw given the plateaus and very small increases day over day, but which are about a 50% increase over the year. So when the MACD, which is yellow, and the signal line, which is actually blue on this chart, stay very close together, it means that there's no very strong momentum upwards or downwards. And we can see here that it actually trades sideways on the price chart and the MACD. So in these instances, it may be a wise move to wait a little longer to see if there's any news to buy or sell the stock. Our fourth and final chart of the day belongs to Hasbro, the largest toy maker in North America, and number 1 and 2 with Mattel, more famous for Barbie. So what we have here is the MACD chart corresponding with the price chart, just as the 3 examples before. So if I would like to bring your attention to the top price chart, orange dotted circle, there's a strong price rise from, let's say, September up until December. of 2010. Looking downwards on the MACD, we see that in fact the MACD line crossed over the signal line a fair chunk before. However, the real price increase has taken place in between this orange dotted circle, which has stayed above the zero line, which is always very positive, usually associated with a increase in the price of the stock. But more attention should be drawn to the fact that in between this orange circle and the MACD line and the signal line cross over each other many times. And essentially a common error associated with reading this chart is that people automatically buy and sell their stock just based on this MACD chart. If that were the case, you would probably lose percentage points just by the sheer amount of transactions and the transaction fees associated, whereas if you exercised more caution and experience with the MACD chart, you would have seen a nice rise from 44 to about $50, and there's nothing wrong with that, that's for sure. So that's one of the reasons I have that orange circle highlighted. Just because it crosses over doesn't mean it's reversing trend. And above the zero line, again, is positive and associated with positive price increase in the stock. Afterwards, and directly afterwards of that orange circle on the price chart, we see a blue circle. Very steep drop from 50 all the way down to 44, which pretty much eliminates all that gain that you possibly had before. Looking down at the MACD, we see that the MACD yellow line crosses over the red signal line, and there's a huge divergence, which you can see by that blue histogram inside the blue circle. And so we can see exactly how much momentum, how much downward pressure is built by having that big convergence in the MACD chart. And in fact, it's so strong that it brings it below the zero line. And only recently has it begun to recover and move upwards above the zero line. So it's kind of traded sideways as we can see, but that's neither here nor there. In the dotted orange circle, remember that you can get whipsawed, buying in and out too fast and missing out on the big gain. Be patient. In the blue circle, it's exactly a good example of how much momentum can be built up when these lines do diverge. On we move to our second last slide of the day, and this is to leave you with a bunch of helpful tips and a sort of summary given all the information that has been thrown in your direction today. And rest assured that in the future there will be more video lessons using the MACD. It's just so useful, and it can be used in many different trading analysis, and can really be used with many strategies to really come up with some really strong pattern confirmation, which is of course good for buying and selling stock and making a profit. So on we move here, we have some helpful tips for the day. Look for when there are line crosses, as they may indicate changes in trend. Again, when the MACD crosses above the signal line, it's positive. And usually when it crosses below the signal line, that's a bearish signal. Second thing, the bigger the divergence, the more momentum there is. Again, just look at that last chart. As the huge divergence there was after the huge stock increase, that huge divergence downwards basically eliminated that whole $5 gain. Bigger divergence, more momentum. And again, if the lines are very close, it often means the market has no preference upward or downward, and it's better to exercise caution and maybe wait or do analysis with other tools. Be aware of the zero line. Above the zero line is very positive. Below the zero line is typically associated with a prolonged downward trend. Either way, when you look at it against the price chart, it's much easier to see exactly where the momentum is going. But above the zero line is much, much better. And the fourth thing, and as always, this shouldn't be used as a loan analysis tool. That's always the case. The more tools, the better picture you can get of where the stock price is going. We certainly hope that all of the helpful tips we just left you with and all of the charts and information given to you today will get you interested and add another tool to your technical analysis box, so you can, of course, make better decisions and conclusions about the stocks that you are interested in buying and selling. And going forward, there's a lot more to the MACD, including how it's calculated, which can also provide more insight. But of course, we need to keep these lessons short and sweet, and build upon the basics. And so that's exactly what we plan to do. So look for future sessions on the MACD. So with that, thank you from Penny Stock Analysis and PennyStockAnalysis.com.